Welcome to the Last Beer Show, episode 31, Mergers, Lagers, and Pickles for Days. We're glad you're here. Let's get into it.
Looking for a used Pico Brew Pro? Have I got a deal for you?
That's right. It's a used Pico system ready for you to brew your brains out.
Yep. It's a used Pico Brew Pro and a Taproom Club draft system. All for the low price of $450.
What?
$450.
For a home brewing crock pot?
It's not a crock pot. For the whole thing. I as you know, I've cut back dramatically as to what I drink here, and
Right.
I'd like to get back to just like regular home brewing again.
Yeah. Something satisfying about watching water boil for a couple of hours.
Exactly.
Seriously, though, just email us sip@lastbeershow.com and Jason will totally sell you his Pico.
I'll totally sell you that Pico.
Totally.
And 4 kegs.
And 4 Pico kegs.
It's a great deal.
It's a great deal.
Mm-hmm.
It's an all-in system.
All in.
So we want to talk about lagers.
Lagers.
Seems seasonally appropriate.
We're drinking a lager now.
And we are consuming one right now. I can drop a quick update on my hops and on the recent homebrew efforts. We should probably talk about the catastrophe that apparently was the Untapped Festival, though other people argue otherwise. I get it.
Yeah.
Sam Adams Dogfish Head Brewery
Dogfish
is where
Adams.
we should talk on Sam Fishhead, but and also touch on the Brewers Association, how it affects the largest because the company that was already the largest member, but like the third or fourth largest member.
Yes.
Right. Like, so now it's by far and away the largest member. And then, but I thought we would start by talking very quickly about some feedback we got on a previous episode.
Yeah.
I know I had one thing I wanted to mention, and I know we had some people who, I think it's a wonderful dialogue, didn't really get the message necessarily, or maybe there's some things we could be better at landing point on. But the word Insta-salutes definitely resonated with some folks.
I do want to mention that is not a word that you or I coined. No, that is a word that is commonly used to describe a group of people. And I would say it is derogatory, but I don't know another way to describe that group of people other than women who show their breasts with cans of beer, right?
Right.
And honestly, if you listen to the meat of what we're saying, we're actually advocating. We're saying, hey, does this really move the ball forward for women?
Yeah.
And so if you listen to the podcast, then it made sense. If you just looked at it on face value, you saw a derogatory term.
Yeah. So I think I learned a few things, but at the end of the day, I'm grateful that a dialogue is being had around it.
Yep.
Because I feel like it hasn't had enough attention put on it for us to be able, as a culture, to define where it should be, where it stands. So I think that's, at the end of the day, even if we trip over ourselves to some degree,
I'll take it.
Yeah, absolutely.
We had it. We were able to do it in a respectful, in an appropriate, respectful way, and for that, I'm happy that it happened.
I hope so. We can henceforth be the craft beer cultural martyrs. I do wish that man candy joke had landed better.
I didn't even
it was
notice it.
In poor taste because it didn't have enough context. I was picking on us as bros, as just white male craft brewers, but
yes,
craft brew geeks. That could have gone better, but no harm.
I'm glad we did it.
Yeah.
I as anyone who is listening to this podcast for any number of episodes knows, we tend to talk about things that either other people aren't talking about. That's what we're trying to do here, and B, issues that we feel like that we should be talking about on a larger level, but aren't talking.
If you're
about.
a longtime listener, first, thank you. Also, second, you know where our heart is. You know the effort we've put into having productive conversations, whether they went well or not. We tried to have productive conversations around hard topics.
Yep.
Gender, race, disability, and I think that there's something to be said for at least trying and having it out there and making ourselves naked enough to be comfortable to go down that path.
Exactly.
So I'm cool with it.
We did acknowledge in that podcast. We did acknowledge that conversation would have been much better had we have had someone of the female persuasion.
And we plan to revisit it.
We do. I would love to revisit.
We plan to revisit it. We will.
Yep.
It just takes time to schedule people and get them.
It does.
In front of a microphone. So, what are we drinking there, buddy?
So we're going to talk a little bit about lagers.
Yeah.
And we're drinking a little Woodland Empire Nappy Roots collab. So if you're familiar with the hip hop group Nappy Roots, those guys connected with the Woodland Empire folks out in Boise, Idaho, and they brewed themselves up a little lager. It's called Bootlager Pre-Prohibition Style Lager. It's at 5.6%. And I'm not a huge lager fan, but I could definitely get down with this. It's clean, sweet. I don't think it's overly malty. I think it's a great lager.
I mean, a really solid craft lager like this is going to be well balanced. It's going to have a distinctive malt flavor. It's going to be hoppy and dry. It's going to have a subtle sweetness to it because the yeast kind of comes out that way, dry, a little sweet, and it's just well balanced. Like, this is a day drinker. It's something that you put in. You put in your pie hole when you're, barbecuing in the afternoon. It's something that you can, if you're going to be out having a couple in a park, family gathering or something over the course of the summer. Like, you don't want to drink a bunch of double IPAs, right? Like,
yeah.
It's just not the way you want your day to go. So something like this is really nice to have in the in your repertoire.
This smells good too. We just opened up a Coppertail BOMP. What is this?
It's a Florida Vice.
Florida Vice.
Which we have not talked much about.
Very
I think we've only mentioned it a couple of times because we had a fruited Florida Vice a few months ago.
Not a regular Vice.
Well, it claims to have blood orange, mango, and passion fruit in it. So this might actually be, and it says Berliner Weiss style ale with fruit added.
Oh, so this is Tampa. Too bad this isn't Miami because it'd be a Miami Vice.
Dang, son. That was awesome.
It's a Tampa Vice.
In a really dry, awesome way.
Yeah, this is a cool bottle, too.
That was good.
Coppertail is, they're one of those kind of cool up-and-coming breweries in the Tampa area.
That
St.
is.
Petersburg area.
Salty. It's good, though. The fruit's good. It's in a good place. I like it.
Wow.
It's tart.
Man, that's
salty.
tart. That is tart and salty. That's almost like a goza.
That's what they call the Florida Vice. All those Florida.
Man.
That's because it's so unbelievably, miserably hot in Florida all the time.
Jeez.
They need that tart, salty beverages to get through the day. That's my excuse, and I'm sticking to it.
Florida Vice. Blood orange, mango, and passion fruit. Pairs perfectly with ceviche.
So, speaking of salty,
So salty.
let's talk about the Sam Adams Dogfish Head merger briefly.
Yes.
This has been covered 6 ways a Sunday online, and Beer Twitter has certainly, as usual, shared its opinion, as has happened in other forums. But I thought just our quick take on it might be, I don't know, something I feel obligated to do.
I was pretty surprised because
Came out of nowhere, right? Left field. Boom!
it definitely came out of nowhere.
How they kept it hush was pretty crazy for 2 pretty big companies.
Yeah, one of the other things that I noticed was that I actually actually tweeted about it the day that it happened, just because my initial thoughts were, man, what a cool merger and acquisition, to be honest. Dogfish Head and Sam Adams, Sam Calagione and Jim Koch are two of the kind of old school guard, home brewing,
iconic,
supporting brewers in the country.
And staunchly independent.
Very, very independent. And their ethos is very, very similar. So to me, I thought this was a great thing. I tweeted it. That tweet had a bunch of retweets and a bunch of likes, and it kind of went around the world a little ways, which I thought was really interesting. It meant that other people felt the same way, which I said, I'm not hating this Dogfish Head Boston Bier merger. In my opinion, this is an incredibly smart and respectable way to battle against macro and should allow them to keep their identities. And there's a bunch of other people that agree with that. So I think it's a great move. In all honesty, the only thing that I kept thinking about when I kept reading about this merger or acquisition, depending on how you look at it, is that this is the merger acquisition that I wish had happened with Wicked Weed, with the Oscar Blues Cigar City Consortium.
That's fair creative thought.
I think that that Wicked Weed kind of partnering and joining the ship with Cigar City and Oscar Blues and that little consortium made a lot more sense than the direction that they did go, although probably not as much money. But the Dogfish Head Boston Bier merger acquisition definitely allows them to retain the respect that they've really deserved and earned over the course of all their years, and still retain their craft beer designation, because as you know, this puts them right at under 5 million barrels combined, which is well under the 6 million barrels that the definition now lists.
I'm sure that if it became necessary for the Brewers Association to change those definitions to accommodate their largest member, who probably pays the most dues and contributes in a meaningful way, they would find a way.
I know, and I feel like they would hate to do that, though, and the reason is because they've worked so hard at this whole independent label and the and their whole initiative around that, and so in saying this is why independent is better. I feel like opening it up could open them up to a lot more of the blowback that they have seen from folks like our friends at Good Beer Hunting and other people.
I mean, you say that, and I hear you, but they inexplicably raised the barrel limit, right? The barrelage maximum, just like a year and a half ago, when nobody was near the when it was like 4.8 million barrels or something like that. They upped it for no apparent reason, and it could have been that Sam Adams was like, "Hey, we need more ceiling because we may be planning an acquisition or a merger," and we'll never know. Right. But it seemed odd at the time that they would raise it when nobody was really up against it.
Yep.
I mean, Sam now would be up against it, Olden, so maybe they anticipated that growth.
Yep.
But Sam Adams' growth has been stagnant. Creativity has been not stagnant, but struggling a little bit. They had a hit with Sam 76, which is a fantastic lager.
New England IPA, right?
No, that's a clean lager.
What's the delicious. Sam Adams?
The Sam Adams New England IPA is good, actually. It's really good.
It actually is pretty good.
Yeah, they've had a couple of like hop series, IPA series, Rebel IPA series that was popular, but they do have contiguous distribution, right, coast to coast.
Yep.
Which Dogfish Head doesn't have. I think they're in 40 or 42 states, and Dogfish Head has more creativity. So they're going to bring that to the table with Sam Adams' reach. And Jim Koch is 69 years old. He's probably looking for an exit strategy. Sam Calagione is 49, I think. So he's got more runway. and, you know, Jim can step back and just be an advisor or be on the board or something like that. Like, it makes a lot of sense. Like, they dovetail in a lot of ways that just make practical sense. So I'm not hating on the idea of it either.
Yeah, I think it's good for.
But I
good
can
for
be
everybody.
skeptical of Brews Association.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's definitely an interesting...
Because the Brewers Association hasn't done enough when it comes to the fair treatment of employees among their members. They've made faint efforts at equality hiring practices, and they haven't done enough to be vocal when things have gone wrong or gone south.
Yeah.
They tend to go silent in hard times. Right, whether it's Scofflaw and Brew Dog, or whether it's some other brand that goes off the rails, they say nothing.
Ooh. So interesting that you should say that, because I don't know if you read the, I don't know if you followed along on Twitter.
Oh yeah, Brew Dog stepped in it again
about Brew Dog.
Yeah.
You know, so here's the deal. I'm in marketing. You've been in marketing on the creative side. The allegation is that Brew Dog asks potential candidates
in
the interview to do all this massive marketing work, and including coming up with names of beers, coming up with labels, coming up with initiatives, and then just using that work without paying for it, without the candidate getting the job. And I've actually thought a lot about this because I myself have had to do these interview work, and I've thought to myself, man, this is a lot of work just for an interview when I'm not getting paid for it. But this BrewDog thing takes it a little bit further, because they've actually used some of these concepts without paying for them. They have had candidates that they have asked to do all this work that they didn't pay them for, and then left them on the hanger for airplane tickets out for interviews and things like that. And reading the Twitter streams regarding this BrewDog thing, there was a consistent kind of message that, hey, this has happened to us too with BrewDog.
Yeah, a few people piped up that said, yeah, it happened to me as well.
Yeah.
I noticed something I gave them, show up in market.
So it's true that when you interview for a company and they ask you to do something to make sure that you can do the work, that unless it's understood from the very beginning, you know that you're giving them this work for free, for usage of
judging you.
Of judging you, right? Not
it
for
is not
usage.
their intellectual property to use,
right?
Unless they hire you. And I want to be careful. Look, it's a shit move. It's not a good look, right?
Yeah,
for Brew Dog. It's not tasteful at all. But companies do this all the time.
They do. I agree.
They give you test projects before they hire you, and sometimes they're real projects. And if they're happy with the work, whether or not they give you the job, they're still going to use the work because they think it's their client or their project, and they own all of the ideas that happen for it. But if you're not an employee, it's not their intellectual property.
I had a really strong interview last month for a large company, and I did a lot of marketing campaign work of these are the things that I would do if I were you, and if I were on your team, these are the kinds of things that I would do. And I did not get the position, and every day I keep checking their social media to see if they're using it, because if they do, I'll be incredibly mad, although
you have no repercussion.
Technically I have no recourse at
all for that.
And you look
classless if you call them on it.
Yeah, so
it's not going to go well.
I would feel better myself, right? Yeah, I came up with that, I guess. But other than that, this does happen all the time. It happens
not just in craft beer.
It
happens in ad agency world
every day.
All
Spec
the
work
time.
is rampant, and it's a disease.
Yes,
and I do like the way the young lady who was mentioned and who kind of joined in the conversation, who had the interview that flew out there, and they they at first didn't want to reimburse her for her flights, but she just invoiced for her time, and James Watt from Brew Dog actually. He tweeted out a copy of the invoice that she sent.
And said, get a load of her.
Right, exactly. Tried to make her look bad. Get a load
of this interviewee.
And then she actually responded with, well, this is the whole email, and if you had done this, then you would understand. The context of what she said is, I'm going to invoice you for my time because it clearly... I don't feel like you value my time and the money that it took for me to do this. And so I'm going to invoice you. And what I would ask, basically what she said was, I'm going to invoice this to you, but if you use any of my stuff outside of what I created and outside of what you paid for, then it's my intellectual property. And so she's not forcing them to pay her.
No,
she's just saying
she wasn't holding them hostage.
If you're going to use my stuff, you're going to pay for it.
You hire me, you can have it all.
That's right.
Because that's the kind of work I do on site.
Yep.
24/7. But if you're going to use it and you're not going to hire me, you need to pay me.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And that's fair.
Well, that's fair because the alternative is to not do spec work. Like I don't do spec work, and I would never do that kind of thing. When I was younger, I would, and I just needed it, but it burned me several times. You don't get paid. You just don't.
Yep.
So that tells you that what you're doing, the company sees it as a commodity, and they don't see it as strategic effort. So if it's not strategic, then it's going to be undervalued and commoditized, so they don't think they should have to pay anything at all. If they do, it's not much.
Yep.
But you can also bet they don't value it a whole lot, that you're infinitely replaceable. And, you got to be careful for companies that whole fit of, whether or not what you do is part of their core offering. It always makes for a better fit, right? So... Yep. Boy, that was a tangent.
Yeah, well, I mean, it just happened that we touched on the Brew Dog thing, and it's been something I
mentioned something that like tweaked you. Your eye started twitching.
Well, I mean, it's
like, oh yeah,
I'm in marketing. Like that's I get it. I get it, and I've seen it personally, and I just know that it's a bad look, and definitely Brew Dog didn't need more negative publicity.
They're punk, man. They're punk AF.
They're
punk AF.
Yeah, so.
They couldn't be less punk. You realize that, right?
So there you go. Not now.
So speaking of things that, may not have gone well, we should always... excuse me. Throat's full of beer goo. We should probably mention the Untapped Festival.
Let me rate this Untapped Festival
rate
on
this
Untapped.
Beer on Untapped. Can you rate the festival on Untapped?
You can actually rate the festival on Untapped, and I don't know what...
I've seen the analogy to Fire Festival, and I think that's in poor taste.
They sold way too many tickets.
Way too many tickets.
And there wasn't a lot of a thought into what might happen. Because when things did happen, they were ill prepared to take care of it. One is they ran out of cups. Two was cups that they had were crappy and flimsy and were breaking. And three, it had rainstorms, it had lightning in the area, so they had to shut it down, and they had to send people to the concourse with no beer. And when they finally did open up, either a lot of people had left, some people couldn't get in the festival, and then some people were mad because brewers that were supposed to have had stations set up didn't have their stations set up because the beer didn't arrive in time for them to get it set up. So there was a lot of people angry and mad about that. Mm-hmm. But what I do understand happened is that once the rains cleared and the lightning cleared the area and they opened it back up, beer started pouring.
I understood it went pretty well.
I think that it went pretty well in the end. I think there was a lot of comments from people saying, "Hey, like it sucked at the beginning, but the end they pulled it out."
Recovered,
so
right?
Good job for them. So I think it's a great learning experience. They're not a beer festival company. They're an app. They're a software tech company.
Yeah.
So
and most beer festivals like that are run by distributors.
Yep.
And they have the means and the experience to coordinate it. So, Untapped clearly struggled with operations.
Yep.
But I hope they do it again. Like, I hope they just learn from it, because I think they're actually the right resource to have and host festival events like this.
Yeah.
It seems like a natural fit. Like it's their community, man.
Yeah.
Right. Like
they're supposed to be objective, right? So it's not so, because most festivals are, like you said, distributor driven.
Yeah.
And they're trying to sell their line.
And it's all their line of beers.
Right.
And most of the beer that's out there is just everyday stuff you can get at the gas station.
Yep.
It's not unique. Like if you're a craft beer fan and you enjoy unique beverages, I've stopped going to festivals. I've just stopped.
Yep.
Because I don't need another base pale ale from... See, I don't need Sierra Nevada and New Belgium, all their base beers that are their flagships. Like, I don't need another Stella Artois.
We don't need another Stella.
See? There you go. So anyway...
I'm with you. I think beer festivals on the whole...
I saw the ticket prices and I thought that it represented a pretty good value when you looked at the breweries that were there. And Charlotte's not that far away from us.
No, we could have went.
Drove up there in 4 hours or something like that.
I think I was camping.
So it seemed like I was interested in going. It seemed reasonable. I mean,
Hey,
I'm
Untapped.
glad I didn't.
Our friends at Untapped, keep it
Don't
up.
stop.
Don't stop. We're here for you.
Do it again.
You'll get better next year. We'll plan to go. Wayne and I both will road trip up there and go. There was a lot of great breweries on tap for this festival. I think that they'll learn a lot of things.
It also doesn't help that they've caught crap for some of the other things that go on inside of that community.
Well, that aren't really
let's
related
face
to
it,
them
like,
per se.
No, exactly. So, but they catch crap for what people put into the network, right? And I think sometimes you get a bad rap.
It's a tool. I mean, you can use the tool however you want. I think there are a lot of people that use it poorly, and there are people like myself who use it responsibly. I actually rarely use it anymore, to be honest.
Oh, really?
I just stopped, man. It got to be where we were doing these things where we'd have 80, 90 beers, and I'm not checking into 80, 90 beers.
No, but at tastings, I will not. I'll check into a few things that are right. I don't go on and put things on blast that I'm not enjoying. What's the old saying? If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. So if it's a 3, I'm not going to bother checking in. If I think it's a 3, most of the things you're going to see in me are like 4s in there because I just want to rate good beers that I enjoyed that I've never had before. I don't like checking into beers I've had before because I'm not into total count. I don't care or track on my total count necessarily. But I do like if I'm in the shop and I'm like, I can't remember if I've had something, it is a really good reference.
Yeah, for sure.
I can go check it. Oh, yeah, I've had it. Oh, no, I haven't had this. Great. So that's really like primary use case now. So let's pour another bottle and I'll give you a couple updates on home brews and we can talk lagers and hops.
Yeah, let's do it. So opening up how do you say this? I don't speak Belgian. Bourgogne de Flanders, which is a lambic.
It's a lambic
that
Flanders.
My friend brought from Belgium. He was there. He and his wife were there a few weeks ago now, and he brought back this lambic, and this is from Bruges. I can't read it because it's not in English, but this is straight from the source from motherland. Bourgogne. Look at this.
Oh, let's go Flanders Red. Ooh. It's a Flanders Red.
Nice, man. Talk about. Ooh, that smells a little funky.
Bourgogne de Flanders.
Whoa, that's interesting.
Flanders. Shut up, Flanders.
That is a very interesting. It almost reminds me of a strong ale. Like it's got a lot of raisiny,
it's 5%
figgy characteristics. This is not like the Flanders Red I was thinking of. Tell me what you think. This is interesting.
It's kind of like a fruity Belgian double.
Yeah, it's weird. It's interesting.
It kind of reminds me.
Lambic, spontaneously fermented.
Yeah, it's a wild fermentation.
Yeah. Interesting. There you go.
Cool. There you go. There you have it.
There you go.
And
so tell me about
this is an ale, though. It's not a lager.
Yeah,
and we were going to talk about lagers.
Well,
we had a lager at the beginning of the show.
earlier. But tell me, let's talk about lagers because
the biggest difference between a lager and an ale, they're two of the primary types of beer. There are spontaneous and wild fermented beverages, and there's different types of yeast, Saccharomyces, Brettanomyces. So I'm not going to get into any of that. All I'm going to say is that lager is cold fermented. Ale is warm fermented. So ale likes to be 65, 70, 72 degrees when it's fermenting. Lagers like to be down a lot lower than that, usually around 50 or lower, 45, 50 degrees, depending upon the yeast strain. And one ferments on the top and the other one ferments on the bottom. So they kind of behave pretty differently. Let's just say they come at the word in different ways. Now, lager is the most popular beer type in the world, by far. Like way by far. Pilsner Urquell, Bitburger, all of the popular Anheuser-Busch, Budweiser products, the Miller products, the Coors products, Molson, Stella, Beck's, Tsingtao, it's Carlsberg. These are all lagers. Most of them are of German style sort of descent. And a lot of the popular ingredients come from that region as well. So you'll get a lot of noble hops, the Pilsner products, the Marzen, Bock, Schwarzbier, all lagers. So some are light, like a Pilsner, and others are dark, like a Marzen or a Schwarzbier, which is black beer. Some of them are really hoppy, man. You can do a lot. You can do just as much with lagers as you can with ales. So it's surprising to me that in the craft beer space, we don't have more lagers because they bring unique flavors to the table and a different kind of mouthfeel from that yeast. Like they're usually a little drier, like something that is a little refreshing and pale, like a Vienna, into the sweet stuff, like some of the dark lagers like Doppelbocks and Schwarzbiers, which is kind of like a light black IPA kind of a thing. So it's really, I'm surprised that there isn't, and I don't know if I wouldn't say frustrated, but like there's so much opportunity for lager that it's sort of like the next great frontier in craft beer, I think. Like you're seeing some now, fairly basic ones like Summer Crushers, like the one we started with tonight, the Bootlager from Woodland Empire, with Nappy Roots collaboration. Like, there's more to come. I think hopefully we've got some IPLs that have dropped in our area, and I know there's some others around the country. The India Pale Lager, which is basically a hopped up pale ale style lager. So the hop bombs are going to come. The fruited ones are going to come. I mean, fruit keeps pretty well at cold temperatures. Like you're going to be able to do some stuff with lagers that maybe you wouldn't be comfortable doing with ales in fermentation with fruit because of refrigeration. The best beer I've ever brewed, homebrewed, was a lager. It was a stout. It was a super thick, black chocolatey, delicious stout. It was like super dry. Drier than an Irish dry stout, but it was really, really fantastic. And we didn't have the refrigeration equipment. So what we did was, my brother made a box. Brother Tim made a box, and we had freezer full of like 2-liter bottles of water, and he would swap those out like twice a day. Just swap them out. Put 2 bottles in, pull 2 bottles out. So before work and after work, like every single day, swap the bottles out to keep the fermenter at the right temperature. And it came out amazing. And we're talking about doing that again. So
yeah,
there you have it. A little bit about lagers. Because everybody likes when you start talking about Saccharomyces.
Everybody loves a good lager.
Bottom fermenting yeast. Yeah. Delicious.
So delicious.
And Bitburger, man, come on, get yourself a Kolsch. Bitburger, alt beer. I think alt beer needs to be a style that blows up. It's a unfiltered
untapped
lager.
territory.
So it's kind of like haze bombs before they were haze bombs.
There was something before haze bombs?
Well, the Germans were doing it 400 years ago with alt beer. This one we're drinking is interesting. It's really kind of sweet.
It's very interesting.
Super sweet.
I don't know what to think about it,
Dates.
though, honestly. It's very figgy, raisiny. It's not like a Flanders Red I've ever had.
My latest homebrew came out amazing.
Yeah, what was it?
Oh my God, mind blown. It's a
Is that the name of it? Mind Blown?
No, I
You
don't
should name it Mind Blown.
I don't remember what we named it.
Mind Blown.
Not that the name of a homebrew matters a lot, but it's a stout with maple, and it is delicious. Your eyes roll back in your head.
Is it delicious?
It's so incredible. I'll bring you a couple bottles.
Okay.
You can enjoy it.
Deal.
Awesome. I'm always excited when a homebrew comes out really well.
Yeah.
Because it's such a gamble, and it takes weeks.
Totally a gamble.
Right? It takes a few weeks until you know. So there's some anxiety there. Like, I've only had a couple of batches. It just didn't come out at all or very well. It's only happened a few times. And I know it happens. There are a lot of factors at play.
Yep.
But when it comes out really great, man, you just beam with pride. You're like, oh, I have made it. Like Tom Hanks in
Pig?
No, I have made fire. When he's lost on the island.
Yeah.
What was it called?
That was the Wilson.
Wilson.
Beach ball.
Yeah, that's not the name of it.
Alone Lost?
Lost? No, that was a television
what was
show.
it? It was,
How can we not remember the name of this movie?
I don't know.
This is a
I can
disgrace.
see it.
This is a disaster
on an
of
island.
epic proportion.
Well.
Anyway, buy your Pico. Buy Jason's Pico.
Yeah, buy my Pico.
For $500?
$450.
$450.
Which is a great deal.
It is a great deal.
Yep.
As great deals go. You know what I've made for the last few weeks? I've made several batches, and all of them sucked. Was pickles.
Womp, womp, womp. Can't be
Man.
Good you can't be good at everything.
I can't make pickles to save my life. I'm going to get it right. I got a friend who makes amazing pickles, and every year I buy a couple jars from him. And I'm like, man, I got to get on this pickle front because this once a year thing is not working for me for these artisanal pickles.
Yeah, we can pickle that.
Dude, I've been using the sous vide, and it's not working.
We can pickle
I
that.
don't think it's a sous vide because like this last batch just came out way too vinegary. So I'll find a recipe online and try to scale it. So I've tried a few, and I haven't retried the same. Well, I did once retry the same recipe, but there's something about the mixture and the herbs. Like I'm not getting it right at all.
We can pickle that.
Underseasoned, overseasoned. I'm lost. Like Tom Cruise on an island with a box with wings on it.
Yep.
I got nothing else.
Pickles for days.
Pickles for days. You got a mosquito in here, dude. We need to kill it.
Yeah, we do.
All right. I'll see you later, buddy.
See you next time.
Peace. Seriously, though, it's not bad.
It's just weird.
You know what this reminds me of?
It's just weird.
When I go to Brickstore Pub, I like to order like a bottle of something new and like that they have in the cellar. So get the vintage list out, right, and get like Roquefort 8, right, and then or St. Bernardus App 12, and then order a new bottle of it too, and then split it with somebody and share it and taste them both, kind of alternate between the glasses. So if it's 5 years old or 10 years old, 8 years old, whatever. And you could also do a flight, so you can get one that's 2 years old. You get a new one that's 2 years old, one that's 5 years old, one that's 10 years old, and do a flight and like try them all. Don't drink them all at one time. Like, find people to share these with. So This reminds me of a cellared beer. Like, this is old.
This beer has existed since 1911. It is a special type of brown beer firmed by mixed fermentation, combining a selection of mixed lambic and brown beer of high fermentation and oak, aged in oak barrels. In 2012, it won a bronze medal at the Brussels Beer Challenge in the category of red ale.
It's good. I don't know if I want a pint of it.
God, I wouldn't want to.
It's kind of rich and kind of sweet, but it is good.
It's just
like, I get it. It's delicious.
It's just weird. It's brewed by the Timmermans Brewery.
Kind of creamy. Check it in the show notes. All right, serious this time. Bye.
Bye.
1911. Thank you for listening. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook at The Last Beer Show. You can email us, sip@lastbeershow.com. If there's anything you want us to touch on and discuss, we would be happy to. Go to the iTunes store, leave us a review or a rating. We would be eternally grateful. And thank you very much.